and the silent hills of Tuscany, when winter still bit the air and chimneys spewed smoke into a gray sky. The stone paths were covered in frost, and the wind carried the smell of freshly burned firewood. The peasants walked wrapped in rough cloaks, the church bells resonated in the distance, and the city seemed to hold its breath under the weight of the cold. It was in that setting, in the midst of a humble but ancient land, where a story began to take shape. A simple story, discreet, almost hidden, but so full of light that no shadow could extinguish it. Lucca, Italy, year 1240. Inside a large noble house with high walls, long corridors, and polished stone floors, a young servant girl advances with timid steps. Her steps make no noise. She walks like someone who fears being heard, like someone carrying a secret. Her hands tremble. Her fingers firmly hold the edge of her apron. Underneath, she hides something. It is not for her. It is not an act of whim. It is not a sin of ambition. It is for the poor who wait outside, next to the side door, with worn clothes, with hands cracked from the cold, with empty stomachs, but with a small, weak, but living hope. She knows it. And yet, she advances. Each step is a decision, each breath a risk, because she not only risks her safety, she risks her job, her dignity, her life. The air in the room is heavy, the silence profound. Suddenly, a voice breaks the calm. "What are you carrying there?" asks the master of the house. His tone is harsh, his gaze severe. Young woman's heart flutters in her chest like a frightened bird. She feels the cold not only in her body, but in her soul. Her lips tremble, her eyes cloud over. She takes a deep breath. She does not flee, she does not deny, she does not invent excuses. Slowly, with an almost reverent gesture, she takes the edge of the apron and opens it, and then the world stops. Because where just a moment ago there was bread, now there are roses, fresh roses, bright roses, soft, living, open roses, as if they had just been born. And the most amazing thing is that they bloom in the middle of winter. The sweet aroma fills the air. The silence becomes deeper. The guises freeze. No one speaks. No one dares to breathe. A miracle. Not one told in books. Not one heard from ancient voices. A present miracle. Visible. Undeniable. The young woman does not smile. Does not take pride. Does not boast. She lowers her gaze with humility. Her name, her life, her faith are revealed in that instant. That young woman was Zita. But to understand that miracle, to understand who that girl, so small and so great at the same time, really was, we must go back, far back, to the place where her story really began. Antisagradi, a small peasant village hidden among gentle hills, where wheat fields sway like golden waves in the wind, and olive groves stretch silently to the horizon. Dusty dirt roads wind between humble stone houses, and the afternoon smell of firewood, freshly baked bread, and prayer. Year 1218, there lived a poor family, but deeply believing. They had no gold, no land, no prestige. They had few coins, few belongings, but a treasure that no one could take from them, their faith. The father worked the land from when the sun barely peeked over the horizon until the shadows covered the fields. His hands were marked by effort, by the plow, by the earth that sustained his life. The mother cared for the home with tired but tender hands. She cooked, mended clothes, cared for the children of the village when someone needed it. They were humble, discreet, almost invisible to the world, and yet God had looked upon them. That year her girl was born. They named her Zita. She was not the daughter of kings or nobles. She was not born among silks or within walls decorated with marble. She was cradled in simple arms, in a cradle of rough wood, under a fragile roof that barely withstood the winter rain and the summer heat. But there was something different about her, a sparkle in her eyes, a precocious serenity, a peace that did not seem to belong to this world. From a young age, Zita understood what other children could not yet see. While the others ran through the field, laughed, played, rolled on the grass, and kicked up dust with their bare feet, she preferred to walk to the small church in the village. She pushed open the old wooden door. entered silently, and knelt before the altar. She did not go out of obligation. She did not go because someone ordered her to. She went because her heart led her there. Sometimes she remained praying for so long that sleep gently overcame her and found her still on her knees, resting on the bench, as if she had wanted to stay as close as possible to God. "Zita," her mother would say gently, placing a hand on her shoulder, "do not you want to go out and play? The children are waiting for you." The girl would look up and smile. "Mom, I am playing with Jesus," and she would return to silence. She was fragile, slender, with a serene face and deep eyes that seemed to look beyond things. She did not talk much. She did not argue. She did not demand. She observed. She listened, and she loved. She loved in a way that made no noise, a way that did not seek applause, but that offered itself in the small, in the everyday, in the silence. The village saw her as a different child, but a good one. Some called her absent-minded, others too serious, but no one could deny that there was something different about her. Something that was beginning to shine softly, like a light lit in the midst of poverty. And so, little by little, without anyone noticing yet, the story of a life began to be written that was destined to become an example, a comfort, a miracle. But as the years went by, poverty began to tighten its grip. The rains came late. The wheat did not grow as before. The land, tired, no longer gave enough. The father returned from the field with his head down, empty hands, and a heavy soul. The mother counted the few coins on the table, over and over, hoping that, by some miracle, they would be enough to buy bread. Hunger stopped being an occasional visitor and began to stay at home. The nights became silent, the prayers longer, the sighs deeper. Zita saw everything. She saw her father's tired face, her mother's cracked hands, the almost empty plate shared among the three. And in her heart, something began to hurt. It was not fear, it was not sadness, it was love. One night, the flame of the lamp flickered on the table. The wind beat against the window and the cold seeped through the cracks. No one spoke. No one wanted to say aloud what everyone felt. Then Zita took a deep breath and spoke in a soft but firm voice. "Papa, Mama, let me go to work. I can help." The phrase fell into the air, like a blow. Her parents looked up. She was still a child, small, fragile, with hands that did not yet know the weight of hard work. But her eyes spoke of maturity, of courage, of a decision that had been born in prayer. The father clenched his fists. The mother tried to smile, but her eyes filled with tears. "Daughter, you are too young," whispered the mother. Zita shook her head gently. "Jesus will give me strength." There was a long silence, painful, inevitable. The parents looked at each other without saying a word. It was a soul-wrenching decision, but need to not ask permission. Love, sometimes, also hurts. And with broken hearts, trusting in God, they accepted. That night no one slept. The mother hugged her daughter, as if she wanted to hold her back forever. The father looked at the ceiling, fighting back the tears. He did not want to show. And while the moon hid behind the clouds, a poor, humble, quiet girl left her childhood behind to walk towards a destiny that would change her life and the lives of many. She was barely 12 years old when she arrived in the city of Lucca and was hired as a servant by the Fatinelli family, a large house, cold, noble, full of long corridors and echoes of authority. "You will wake up before dawn," they told her. "You will clean, cook, obey, without complaints." "Yes, sir," she replied, and she complied. Every coin she earned, she sent to her family. She was left with almost nothing, except for her faith. At dawn, before starting her chores, she would walk to the church to attend Mass. It did not matter if it was raining, if it was cold, if she was tired. For her, God was more necessary than bread. But that devotion aroused envy, laughter behind her back, hurtful whispers, constant mockery. Some servants looked at her with contempt. "Look at her, the little saint," they said, "always praying, always silent." Others went further. They hid her tools. They damaged her work. They left her the hardest tasks, and when something went wrong, they blamed her. The master began to distrust her. Punishments were frequent. Less food, more work, humiliations. And yet, Zita never responded with anger. She never raised her voice. She never accused anyone. She simply looked to the sky and continued. At night, in her small attic room, with cold walls and a worn blanket, she knelt down once more. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered wearily. "Thank you for allowing me to serve." She did not ask for riches. She did not ask for rest. She only asked for strength to love, even when she was hurt. And that strength did not come from pride, nor from human pride, but from something deeper, because inside her heart burned a silent secret. Zita did not work for her masters, nor for a house, nor for a noble family. She worked for God. Every blow, every mockery, every injustice, she offered in silence, an invisible sacrifice, an act of silent love. While others accumulated power, she accumulated patience. While others sought recognition, she sought to serve. Her hands were cracked, her feet tired, but her spirit remained firm. And although no one saw it, although no one recognized it, that small cold attic was becoming the place where a great story began. The story of a woman who would learn to love even when the world rejected her. Pain did not make her hard. Disdain did not turn her into resentment. Injustice did not wither her heart. On the contrary, it made her more compassionate. While others closed themselves off to suffering, she opened herself even more. When she saw a poor person, she stopped. She did not walk by. She did not pretend not to see them. She approached, listened, shared, even though she had little to give. When she found someone suffering, she helped them. A word, a gesture, a piece of bread hidden in her apron. Sometimes she gave up her own food to give it to someone who had even less than her. No one forced her. No one saw her. No one applauded her. Her charity was silent, but also dangerous. Because in the Fatinelli house, poverty was not welcome. The poor were considered a threat, an obstacle to be kept away. And yet, Zita continued to help them in secret. One winter dawn, when the cold cut through the skin and the wind pierced the bones, she found a hungry man at the door, trembling, weak, barely able to stand. "Please," he whispered. "I have not eaten in days." She looked around. She knew that, if she was discovered, the punishment would be severe, but her heart knew no calculation. She went into the kitchen. She discreetly took bread, some food, and hid it under her cloak. Her hands trembled, not out of fear, but out of compassion. She went out silently and gave it to the beggar. "God bless you, daughter," he said with tears in his eyes. And it was that charity, that decision to love, even when no one else did, that one day unleashed the miracle. One morning she found several hungry people by the service door. Their faces reflected anguish, weakness, desperation. They were mothers with small children, tired old people, men who had lost their jobs and hope. The cold bit at their skin. Hunger extinguished the light in their eyes. Zita observed them in silence, and her heart trembled. Without a second thought, she took bread from the kitchen, crumbs of mercy, but for them, it was life. She hid it under her apron. Not for herself, for those who had nothing. She knew she was disobeying orders. She knew she could lose everything, but she preferred to risk her fate than to close her eyes to the pain. However, she was discovered. The master of the house stopped her suddenly. His voice echoed in the stone walls. "Stop," he shouted. "What are you hiding there?" Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The servants approached like shadows. They surrounded her. Some wanted to see her humiliated, because her kindness made them uncomfortable. Others just wanted to see her fall, because her silence reminded them of their own inner misery. Zita trembled, but she did not lie. She did not run, nor did she beg. Her gaze rose for a moment to the sky, as if she were speaking in secret with God, and slowly she opened her apron. Everyone expected to see bread, stolen, forbidden, guilty. However, what fell on the ground was not food. It was roses, soft, beautiful, fragrant roses, as if they had just been born from the dawn. Fresh roses in the middle of winter, when nothing blooms, when everything sleeps, When the earth seems dead, silence enveloped the room. Laughter died on their lips. Mockery froze in the air. No one could utter a word. The master stepped back. His hardness broke for an instant, and his eyes filled with astonishment and sacred fear. The servants lowered their gaze. Some fell to their knees, because they understood that this was not a trick, nor an illusion. It was a miracle, and that day, everything changed. She was no longer the insignificant servant, the little girl, the silent maid, but the purest soul in the house. From then on, her name began to be pronounced with respect, with tenderness, with a mixture of wonder and devotion. Zita, the girl who turned bread into roses, the humble one who revealed the greatness of God in the silence of her obedience and in the strength of her love. With time, that small, humble heart, that heart that had learned to love in silence, became a beacon of goodness in Lucca. People began to seek her out, not because she was important, not because she had power, but because, when they looked at her, they felt peace. The poor found solace in her smile. The sick felt relief in her presence. The desperate found hope in her soft words. So few, so discreet, but full of light. She served. She loved. She forgave, day after day, even when her body grew tired, even when her soul carried scars that no one saw. She never held a grudge against those who humiliated her. She never spoke ill of those who scorned her. She never returned offense for offense. Where others built walls, she built bridges. Where others saw enmity, she offered mercy. Until the last day of her life, her dedication never stopped. And when she departed from this world, the Fatinelli house fell silent. The city bells rang with a deep lament, and the roads filled with people, rich and poor, children and the elderly, servants and nobles. All mourned her absence, because they understood that they had not lost a servant, but a holy soul. But they also celebrated her example, her simple life, her constant faith, her heart that knew how to love even in pain. Because Zita was not great because of wealth, nor because of power, nor because of intelligence. She was great because she chose to love when no one was watching, in silence, in secret. There where only God looks, without seeking recognition, without expecting reward. With faith, with purity, with the simplicity of a girl who never stopped trusting in God, not even when the world was hard on her. And so, her name was written, not in the books of men, but in the hearts of those who learned that true greatness makes no noise, does not boast, does not impose itself. It gives itself.